What began as a polite Good Morning America interview ended with Meghan Markle storming off in tears, after Lara Spencer finally snapped back. Morning television in the United States has always carried a special kind of magic. For decades, shows like Good Morning America have been more than news. They've been part of the culture of waking up in America. The warm studio lights, the trusted anchors, and the sense that if they're smiling at you through the screen, maybe your day will go just a little smoother. Lara Spencer embodies that energy. Calm, elegant, and effortlessly relatable, she's the kind of host viewers feel comfortable letting into their homes with their first sip of coffee. But what happens when that sunshine collides with a storm? That was the stage set for Meghan Markle's appearance. On paper, it was perfect. Golden light bouncing off the polished desk, camera cranes moving like ballet dancers, and Lara in her tailored yellow suit ready to guide another smooth segment. Meghan entered with the aura of Hollywood meets royalty, polished blouse, diamond flash, her presence commanding the room. Viewers across the US, mental health, a topic that resonates deeply with American audiences who've lived through open conversations about therapy, wellness apps, and self-care trends. Lara's tone was soft, inviting. But Meghan's reply shifted the mood immediately. Instead of tips and tools, she emphasized alignment, autonomy, and boundaries. It wasn't wrong, it was thoughtful, but the delivery carried. They've seen athletes clash with reporters, politicians dodge questions, and celebrities turn defensive. This was different. This was a cultural collision, the trusted calm of morning TV against the carefully guarded intensity of a guest who didn't want to play by the usual rules. What began as sunshine was already clouding over, and the audience could feel it in their bones. Chapter 2 is where the storm really began to take shape. Lara Spencer, ever the professional, leaned on the strength of American morning show culture. Ask questions that touch hearts, bring out personal stories, and connect celebrity life to everyday lives. That formula has worked for decades, because Americans love relatability. Whether it's Oprah sharing a tearful confession or Robin Roberts delivering inspiration, audiences expect honesty mixed with humility. But Meghan Markle wasn't here to play by those rules. When Lara shifted the conversation to purpose, highlighting Meghan and Prince Harry's initiatives like scholarships, veteran support, and digital well-being, American viewers leaned forward. This was supposed to be the safe ground, the feel-good part of the segment. But instead of offering a touching anecdote, Meghan stayed distant. She spoke about energy shifted, about systems evolved for a US audience used to concrete impact, numbers, stories, testimonials. Her words sounded more like strategy than heart. And when Lara gently pressed for a story of change, Meghan drew a firm line with a single word: privacy. That's when the room tightened. In American culture, privacy is respected, but on morning TV, it can feel like a wall. Viewers at home sipping coffee in Ohio or Texas weren't looking for corporate jargon. They were looking for a human connection. Lara knew it. She kept her composure, her tone still velvet, but the tension was clear. Then came the shift to Meghan's career path, from actress to producer. Once again, Lara offered a bridge: leadership, creativity, empowerment, topics American audiences rally around. But Meghan's response carried a subtle sting. She had always captained her space. The only difference now was that people noticed. It was a power move, not a warm one. This was the turning point where privacy and purpose, two themes Americans value, began to clash instead of blend. What could have been an inspiring moment felt more like a reminder of distance. And in the world of US daytime TV, distance is dangerous. Because when viewers can't relate, they turn on the guest. The clouds were getting darker. If American audiences love anything, it's the feeling that celebrities are just like us. Whether it's Jennifer Garner talking about packing school lunches or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson showing his gym playlists, relatability sells. Daytime television thrives on that connection. Lara Spencer knows it. She leaned into that tradition with a question that seemed harmless: what does a typical morning look like in your home? But Meghan Markle wasn't interested in playing the relatable mom. Her laugh was polite but cool. She admitted she had staff, structure, and support. No dinosaur pancakes before yoga. No juggling chaos like the average American parent. On one level, her honesty was refreshing. On another, it landed like a cold splash of water. Because while audiences in California, New Jersey, or Kansas might admire ambition, they also want to feel seen. And nothing builds distance faster than being told, "We don't do typical." The divide grew sharper when Lara touched on Meghan's upcoming series. Viewers expected excitement about inspiring women in leadership. Instead, Meghan zeroed in on refusal, jobs not taken, roles rejected, smallness walked away from. Saying no as superpower. For a US audience that often doesn't have the privilege to say no, to a second job, to bills, to sacrifices, that message risked alienation. Lara, sensing the tension, tried to ground it. She pointed out that saying no is sometimes a privilege. But Meghan brushed it off, insisting limitations were often just mindset. That's where the American living rooms grew uneasy. Because in a country where rent, childcare, and healthcare are real and heavy struggles, calling them mindset problems felt out of touch. Still, Lara didn't flinch. She embodied what US morning TV hosts are trained to do: smile, pivot, and soften. She acknowledged imagination's power, but gently reminded viewers of real constraints. Meghan's response, "I'm aware of the world. Are you?" wasn't just sharp. It was dismissive. And in that moment, the cultural clash hit full force. For US audiences, it wasn't just a clash of personalities anymore. It was a clash of values: relatability versus authority, empathy versus power. And it was clear the gap between host, guest, and audience was widening by the second. The storm clouds were now impossible to ignore. By this point, the studio no longer felt golden, it felt tense. What started as a polite conversation had shifted into something American audiences know well: live television that's teetering on the edge of chaos. And if there's one truth about daytime TV, it's this: audiences can sense when respect is slipping. When Lara asked Meghan for practical advice for young women, the answer was blunt: stop asking how to start. Just begin. On paper, that could sound motivating. But in living rooms across the US, from single moms in Detroit to college students in Texas, it came off as dismissive. Americans often want step-by-step guidance, real systems of support, not sermons about courage. Lara gently reminded Meghan that mentorship and opportunities matter. Meghan's reply: opportunities find those prepared to take them. That hit a nerve, because for many watching, opportunities aren't a gift, they're fought for. Then came the sharpest crack yet. When asked about risk, Meghan declared that for her, innovation wasn't risky, it was routine. For viewers who equate risk with vulnerability and sacrifice, the line felt arrogant. And when Lara suggested vulnerability could strengthen her message, Meghan cut back: the world doesn't need another woman crying on cue. Gasps echoed in the studio. Vulnerability, for American culture, isn't weakness. It's often the very thing that inspires. From Oprah's confessions to Ellen's early honesty about identity, TV history has shown that vulnerability connects.
Meghan's dismissal rend hollow.
The breaking point came with the discussion of family balance. Lara framed it as universal: the tug between career and home, something millions of American women live every day. Meghan waved it away as a myth, insisting her children would thank her later for building something historic. The response froze the room. For viewers juggling childcare, bills, and jobs, it sounded like condescension. When Meghan added that maybe ambition isn't for everyone, the studio rippled with audible disapproval. For US audiences, this was no longer about ambition, it was about respect. Respect for ordinary struggles, respect for resilience. And as Lara pushed back with grace, reminding viewers that raising families is its own form of ambition, the cultural divide was clear. The audience wasn't just uneasy anymore. They were turning. Every American viewer knew it by now. The interview had crossed into dangerous territory. What was supposed to be a polished, polite segment had turned into one of those rare daytime TV moments people would talk about at work, replay on YouTube, and debate over dinner tables. The word that shattered the calm was fragile. Meghan's claim that ordinary people were fragile for wanting kindness hit like a spark in a gas-filled room. For a U.S. audience that values compassion, whether for military veterans, working parents, or neighbors in need, her remark was a step too far. The studio erupted in gasps, whispers, even boos. And that's when Lara Spencer, the calmest voice in morning television, finally let her composure crack. She leaned forward, steady but sharp, reminding Meghan, and every viewer, that titles don't build character, work does. Respect does. It was the moment American audiences had been waiting for, the host standing up not just for herself, but for them. The crowd erupted in applause, the energy in the studio flipping from tension to vindication. Meghan tried to defend herself, insisting she had sacrificed. But Lara's counterpunch landed with the weight of Real America. Sacrifice is mothers skipping meals to feed their kids, nurses pulling double shifts, teachers paying for supplies out of pocket. Not walking away from a palace with multimillion-dollar deals. That truth cut through the studio like a lightning strike. When Meghan rose in tears, fumbling with her microphone, Lara's calm returned. Her words were firm but measured. This interview is over. You are excused. For a US audience, it wasn't cruelty, it was justice. The applause that followed wasn't polite, it was thunderous. Viewers saw not just a host protecting her dignity, but a voice standing up for working Americans who don't get to dismiss empathy as weakness. As Meghan stormed off set, the camera stayed on Lara. Her closing words were clear. Here on Good Morning America, we believe in respect. It was a line that cemented the cultural moment. What began with sunshine had ended in storm, and in living rooms across America, people knew they had just witnessed one of daytime television's most unforgettable clashes. What began as a polished morning segment turned into one of the most unforgettable clashes in daytime TV history. Lara Spencer, the steady hand of American morning culture, stood firm against Meghan Markle's sharp dismissals, defending empathy, respect, and the struggles of everyday people. The exchange wasn't just about two women on opposite sides of a desk, it was about values colliding live on air. Relatability versus authority. Compassion versus condescension. For millions of viewers, it was a reminder that morning television isn't just background noise, it's a mirror of the culture, where dignity matters and respect is non-negotiable. And on that morning, Lara Spencer showed why America still trusts its calmest voices when storms